Welcome back to a get ready with me for my passport photo. This is an impromptu video where I'm sharing all my tips and tricks on how to use makeup to your advantage with ID photos. And this is for people who love makeup. Like if you love the glam, love taking Instagram selfies, and your ID is shockingly bad and there's just such a contrast between the two, hopefully this tutorial helps bridge that gap. And I deleted my intro by accident, so let's get into it. This is the Hydrating Primer by Armani Beauty. Doesn't have a glow to it. It has a bit of a sticky texture, which is great before foundation. I also didn't apply any SPF prior. And I'd recommend going with a medium coverage foundation and then a high coverage concealer. This sounds like a lot, and it is, but ID photos are notoriously unflattering, and if you have any dark circles, blemishes, discoloration, it can be really picked up with the flash, even through like a BB cream or light foundation. I went with Charlotte Tilbury's Beautiful Skin. This is my go-to foundation right now, by the way, and you can sheer it out for every day or apply it with a heavier hand as I'm doing now. Make sure you apply down your neck and that your face, neck, and chest match if they're all showing. My favorite high coverage concealer is by Too Faced. Their Born This Way line is amazing. I usually go a bit lighter than this for like a little bit more of a highlight, but because it's flash, it's already gonna pick up a bit lighter than we want, so I went with one shade lighter. The concealer's on the yellow side, but when it blends out, it is fairly neutral and high coverage under the eyes. Usually for bronzer and contour, I love powder. I find it's more foolproof, a little goes a long way, and contour can look a lot more muddy with sticks. But again, with flash, it can make the powder you apply kind of disappear. So I'm gonna add a thicker product, more of a full beat technique that I don't normally do, but instead of applying the stick directly to the face, apply it to a brush and then stipple it under the cheekbones, blending upwards, around the hairline, under the jawline. And I like to pat from the middle of my cheek downward to my chin. This does age your face, so I don't recommend it for everybody, but I have such a round face that when I am shot from straight on with a flash, I really lose any contours between my cheekbones. That's why I prefer to take photos from the side. Same thing with nose contour. If you've contoured your cheeks and you haven't contoured your nose, it's gonna look unfinished and it'll really widen your face and your nose will appear flat and more wide than it is. So again, with a bit of cream contour, defining the sides of the nose and accenting the divots above the nostrils that give my nose a bit of shape. I'd say you don't really want to change your features for an ID photo, but if you do know that you have some asymmetry in your face, you could try a bit of contouring to correct it subtly. Set with powder, my favorite is Drugstore. It's Revlon Photo Ready. Patting this over the areas I've highlighted so that we don't get too shiny. And I have a deeper matte powder that I'm gonna use to mattify the cream contour products. I didn't add any light powder over the contours. I really wanna make sure that nothing can remove that dimension with flash, and I'm adding a bit more contouring with Kevyn Aucoin, one of my favorite contour powders. From some past tutorials that I was watching before I was getting ready, there was a couple tips saying that color will be less bold with flash, but in my experience, it was actually a little bit more rich in color than I thought it would be. The neutral colors I used looked a bit more vibrant and warmer, so keep that in mind. I went with a peachy blush, and the blush really did pick up exactly how I put it, so I could have gone with a bit of a lighter hand. And with blush, avoid any shimmers or highlights, but if you do want your skin to look luminous and not too flat, you could always go in with something like the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter on your cheekbones. For brows, fill them in how you like. So generally, I like to have a fuller brow, and I bring the top of my brow a bit higher, define the under portion of the head, and then I'll create a couple soft strokes through the tail to fill it out. A tip I would say to stay away from for ID photos and in general is a really harsh definition at the very front of the brow. If it's not exactly the same, that will really stand out. So try to fade it in and have your arches line up the best you can. Depends on the passport requirements, but I'm pretty sure for Canadian passports, which is what I was getting my photo taken for, you have to put your hair behind your ears. So if your hair is like mine and you don't have a lot of volume, the only thing that you have to frame your face is going to be your brows. So that's what I took the most time on. Set with a brow gel. For shadows, let's go with matte shades. I started with Too Faced Melted Chocolate for eyeshadow. I really like to do this on the daily. I'll just add this one matte shadow, smoke it out under the eye, add a bit of mascara. but I went with another favorite neutral palette by ColourPop. This is the That's Taupe palette, and I use it in every video. Really recommend these shades. I mixed the purpley taupe and the gray through my crease, lightly faded out into a V, and then with the deepest brown in the palette, I used this under the bottom lash line just on the outer corner, and I'm really blending out into the outer V. Not going to go with a harsh liner today, but I am going to drag this over the lash line to create a fuller looking lash line and blend out. So I've done quite a few steps with the eyeshadow, but the colors really aren't bold, it's fairly natural, great everyday look. Added some black liner to my Tightline. I love the Revlon vinyl liner. And I always add it to my inner corner. Makes my eyes a little bit more cat-like. My eyes are super round, so I didn't want another super wide-eyed photo, but I always look a little shocked in these regardless. Curling my lashes, and I got this new Bare Minerals mascara in PR this week, and I love it. It is such a good mascara. I've been recommending the Pretty Vulgar mascara, which reminds me of the Better Than Sex by Too Faced. So if you like any of those, then you'll like this one, and it's really easy to build up. My favorite lip liner has been Deep Taupe by Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I always use Charlotte Tilbury's Iconic Nude Lip Liner. It's super smooth. I find this one's even smoother than the Charlotte Tilbury one. And line your lips as they are. And this is pretty close to my lip color, but again, look at the final photo. It appeared more dramatic. It almost looked a little bit more rosy than I intended. I wouldn't go much deeper than this shade or go a lot more vibrant than this because the flash will pick it up slightly different. And here is the look compared to what I would actually wear on the daily. Here I don't wear as much contour. I go with like a natural peachy gloss, but in the photo that I have no control over, where it's dead in the center, one eye is smaller than the other. So I'm gonna add Ardell Demi Wispies. Add these fluttery lashes to help camouflage the asymmetry there. And I cheated a bit here because you're supposed to do a neutral expression for Canadian passports. You're not really allowed to smile, so I tilted the corners of my lip liner just slightly up. This video isn't pop culture inspired, so I don't have a pop culture password, but comment down below your worst ID photo horror story. We all have one. Mine I'm not going to show because I did lose it, but I plucked off my brows in high school. I made them look so far apart and they were lopsided, so any straight on photo was just horrendous. And then for hair, I don't love my hair in a ponytail, so I decided to keep it straight and just pin two sides back. They want your ears showing for the Canadian picture, so instead of quickly tucking it behind my ears on the spot and having maybe some weird loops or, you know, it looking asymmetrical there, I just went with it pinned back. Most of the time people say don't go with the center part, but I didn't want one side kind of higher than the other. I thought I tried hard with the symmetrical makeup anyways, so I did go with the center part, and a nice touch is to add some gold earrings. I didn't have any plain black t-shirts, I'm wearing a romper here, but going with a lower neckline where you can see some of your chest is flattering for shoulders up photos. My final tip, and I hope this makes sense, but pull your ears back. Some people can't do this, but if you can wiggle your ears backwards, it lifts your brow and you'll look less pissed off. And that is how I got ready for my passport photo. Went to Walgreens, they took one. I don't particularly like the photo. I do look like the moon emoji, but it's still quite an improvement to my last one, and I hope these makeup tips helped. If you missed my last tutorial inspired by Euphoria, check it out. It's the Sydney Sweeney 60s inspired look when she's looking all Oklahoma. Or if you want another soft glam, this Kendall Jenner makeup look is also neutral and really flattering. Hope you'll keep on watching, and I'll see you in my next upload.